Well, just wanted to make a quick game to sort of show you how to get started on this, just in case you're having a hard time finding ideas about what kind of game to create, or you're just having a hard time getting started with the system. So I've got a little bit of the tedious stuff already done, but let me walk through this really quick. So when you start up a new game, it's going to have an on start loop, but if you need an on start loop, it would be in the green loops, and then that would be your on start. But you've already got one. So I started this one just by creating a sprite. The sprite is the blue, so that's your player, your food, your enemy, any of the little graphics that you're interacting with. So blue is going to be here with sprites under blue. This is the set sprite. So I drug that over. Let me pull this out just so you can see how it works. Drag it over, and then I just docked it in. Let me pull these guys out, and I'll bring them over one by one. And then this will be blank, so you just click on this, and then I like to just go to gallery. You're welcome to draw a sprite, but I like to just usually go to gallery, and then I'll just pick something from the gallery. So in this case, I picked the little cat. And then you can change the name where it says my sprite. You can pull this down, and then just click on new variable and type in a name. And you can decide what kind of sprite it's going to be. So this is a player sprite, so I've selected player. Alright, so now the simulation starts, and I've got my sprite, which is the cat, on the black background. I really want some kind of background to interact with. So you can go to scene, and you've got kind of two options. You've got the set background image, but then you also have the set tile map. Just when you're doing a really simple game, this is just a simple adventure game, I think the tile map is a little bit easier. But if you're doing like a Galaga or something like that, or an Asteroids type game, then you'd want to use the background image. So let me do the set tile map. And again, this came in as gray originally, so I'm going to click on that. And then this would just be all empty space. And I use the editor here just with the regular forest tiles to create a path. And then I've got some areas that I need to block off. Notice under forest you've got some other options. And then under each of the options, let me click forest again, you've got several different options. So in forest I've got access to all this good stuff. But I just did the really basic stuff. Now what I want to do is I really want to block this off so the character can only go in the path areas. So I'm going to click on here, which is the walls, and that'll highlight in red, and then it'll be this transparent red, and I'm just going to red over all of the stuff that I drew. And it took me a while to draw this, so I don't want to draw everything for you, just because it'll be boring just watching me draw all that stuff out. But I would recommend draw your path first, and then draw, whatever other areas you want that are going to be outside of your path, and go back and add whatever decorations you want, and then do this boundaries last. So I'm just going to completely block in red anywhere my character sprite and my enemy sprite's not going to go. And then you can toggle the walls here, show walls, which I would recommend using show walls, but then this would be without walls. Alright, so this looks great, so I'm going to click done. Notice that I'm not going to be able to see the walls on my simulation view. It's just an internal process check. Now, I really want my sprite to come in on a random location. So that's my next command. This has to follow the set tile map. Notice that this is also this grayish blue, so this is going to come out of scene. And this is just the set my sprite on top of random, and it gives you the option to pick a tile. And so I want my sprite to be on the path, so I'm picking the path tile here. And now you can notice in the simulation that my sprite has now appeared on top of a random location. Now I want to be able to move my sprite. And by the way, when we're programming, we really want to try to program this way where we're just trying to get one thing done at a time and then checking to see that it's working. That's usually the best way to program. So don't try to do 10 things at once. Just do one new thing and make for sure that it's working. This is red. This is out of the controller. This is move my sprite with buttons. So there's my sprite just peeking out from the bottom. And then if I try and move the joystick, or I can just use the arrow keys on the keyboard and it'll move the joystick. And you can see that it's now moving and that I'm also not able to walk into those areas that I've marked with the boundary. Now my tile map's bigger than my screen, so I really want the camera to follow my sprite. Notice that this is dark gray. This is another one that's out of scene. Camera follow my sprite. And you could have it follow the sprite or the enemy or whatever, but usually you're going to want it to follow the player sprite. Now I want to do two more types of sprites. I want to have an enemy that's going to chase my sprite. So let me work on that. So that would be again out of the sprite. So just insert a blank one, come down here and then do new variable. Click on that. I'm just going to call this one my enemy. I could call it enemy. Any valid character name would be fine. This will be blank, so again you have to click on it and select something or draw a sprite. And then this pull down menu here, you can select what it is. So I'm going to select enemy. And then kind of the same process that I did here. I've got my tile map already created, so I don't need to recreate my tile map, but I do need to put my enemy on the tile map. So if you're doing something like this and you're doing something that's kind of repetitive but with some changes to it, if you do a right click on one of these, you can also do duplicate, and then you can move your duplicate down and then you can change whatever you need to change. In this case I already had my instruction in there. Also let's look at, hey, how do I change my code once I've got my code in here? So this is now a junk instruction. I don't want it anymore. I can just bring it over to the side and the garbage can lights up and I can click it there. Okay, so now let's see if this is working. So I've got my sprite, camera's following my sprite. Let's see if I can find my enemy. There's my enemy, and sure enough my enemy's on a random tile, so that's good. Now I want my enemy to chase my sprite, so I'm going to click this next one in. This would be under sprite. And this is this command, set blah to follow blah. Okay, so let's reset the simulator. And my enemy's going to try to find me. Yeah, there it goes. But it may get blocked by the wall, and that's fine. That's actually what I wanted with my gameplay. Now I want to create one more sprite, which is a food. So I'm going to do the same procedure, set the sprite and place the sprite. So I'm going to call this one my food. I've changed it to a food icon, and then instead of player, I'm going to select food and then place it on top of random. So let's take a look and make sure that that worked, and yeah, it's on random. Okay, so great. So I've got the basics of my game, but my game's not really doing anything yet. So let's go and put some events in here so that my game will actually be able to do something.